Most people live their lives on autopilot. They wake up each morning thinking the same thoughts as yesterday, feeling the same emotions and repeating the same actions. And then, at the end of the day, they wonder why nothing has changed. This is why 95% of people fail to create the life they dream of. They are caught in a loop, a cycle of old patterns and familiar habits that keeps producing the same reality over and over again. The truth is, your future is being built in every moment. But if every moment is filled with the same predictable patterns from your past, your future will always look like your history. People fail because they don't realize they're living in a program. They think they're making choices, but in reality, their subconscious mind is running the show based on conditioning, beliefs, and emotions stored long ago. To succeed, you have to step out of the program. You have to break the cycle. This begins when you decide to think differently, to feel differently, and to act differently than your old self. Success is not about luck or talent. It's about mastering your inner world. It's about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the vision of the life you want to create. 95% fail because they wait for circumstances to change before they change how they think or feel. They say, when I get the promotion, then I'll feel successful. When I meet the right person, then I'll feel loved. When I have enough money, then I'll feel abundant. But life doesn't work that way. You have to feel the success before it arrives. You have to practice gratitude, love, confidence, and abundance before the evidence shows up. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what you vividly imagine and what you physically experience. When you repeatedly think a new thought and embody the emotion of that thought, you are literally rewiring your brain and conditioning your body to a new future. That's how you shift from the 95% who recycle the past into the 5% who create the future. So ask yourself, are you willing to leave behind the familiar version of yourself, the one who doubts, who complains, who fears? Are you willing to step into the unknown and trust that the future you want is waiting on the other side of your courage? Because success is born in the unknown. It comes from walking into that space where your old excuses no longer exist, where your old patterns have no power. The reason most people fail is because they'd rather be comfortable in the known misery than take a chance on the unknown possibility. But you are not most people. You wouldn't be here listening to this if there wasn't a deeper part of you that knows you're capable of more. That part of you has been whispering, urging you, asking you to rise above the 95% and claim your place among the few who live with purpose, power, and freedom. So here's the challenge every day. Catch yourself when you fall into the old program. When you notice the same negative thought, stop it. When you feel the old emotion of fear or doubt, breathe and shift your state. Choose a new thought. Practice a new emotion, act in a new way. And if you do it long enough, with enough intention and energy, you will become someone new. That's when success stops being something you chase and starts being something you attract. You won't have to try to make your future happen. It will come to you because you have already become the person who lives in that future. The 95% are stuck because they are addicted to their old selves. But the 5% succeed because they are brave enough to let go. Which path you take is up to you. The power has always been inside you. The question is, will you use it? Most people do not realize how much of their lives are spent on autopilot. They wake up, check their phone, brush their teeth, drink their coffee, go to work, complain about the same problems, and repeat the same conversations over and over again. Day after day looks almost identical to the one before it. This is why 95% of people never break out of their limitations and why they keep experiencing the same struggles in their health, relationships, and success. They are stuck inside a cycle that feels familiar, but that familiarity is exactly what is holding them back. Imagine a person who has been driving the same route every day for years. Even if there is a new road that could take them somewhere better, they won't find it because their mind is conditioned to stay on the same path. In life, the majority of people are doing the same thing. They think the same thoughts they thought yesterday, which lead to the same emotions, which push them into the same choices, which create the same results. Then they wake up the next morning and repeat it all over again. Without even realizing it, they are trapped in a closed loop of their own making. When people live on autopilot, they give their power away to their past. The brain becomes wired to run old patterns, and the body becomes addicted to old emotions. If someone has lived in fear for years, their body begins to crave fear because it feels normal. If someone has lived in doubt or anger, those feelings become their home. So when they try to step outside of that cycle, it feels uncomfortable, even wrong, because the body is urging them to return to the familiar emotional state. This is why change is so difficult for most people. It's not that they lack potential, it's that they are unknowingly slaves to the familiar routines of their own subconscious mind. Autopilot living also robs people of their creativity. When the same patterns are repeated every day, the brain has no reason to form new connections. But success, growth, and transformation can only come from new thoughts and new emotions. If a person wakes up and only remembers yesterday's pain, disappointment, or failures, their attention is already locked in the past. Their body is already reliving those emotions, and their mind is already preparing to repeat the same experiences. This is why 95% of people fail. They keep reliving yesterday instead of creating tomorrow. Life is not happening to them. Their past is happening to them again and again. The autopilot cycle also explains why people often feel like they are working so hard but not moving forward. Think about it. Someone can spend years working in a job they dislike, saving money, stressing about bills, and telling themselves one day things will change. But because their thoughts, emotions, and actions remain tied to the same patterns, life doesn't give them new opportunities. Their energy is too familiar to attract something different. They are tuned into the same frequency of reality, so life keeps sending them the same kind of experiences. It's like listening to the same radio station every day. You can't expect to hear a new song if you don't change the channel. To break free from autopilot, a person has to become conscious of their thoughts and actions. They have to notice when they are repeating an old story or reacting in the same predictable way. That awareness alone begins to interrupt the cycle. For example, if someone notices that every morning they wake up and immediately complain about how tired they are, they can pause and choose to think differently. They might start by practicing gratitude or visualizing the day they want to create. This small act of breaking the pattern is like stepping off the old road and taking a step onto a new path. Over time, these small shifts compound, and the brain begins to wire itself to new possibilities. The reason most people stay in the 95% is not because they lack intelligence, opportunity, or desire. It is because they never stop to question the cycle. They don't realize that their familiar thoughts and habits are writing the script of their lives. They allow their external environment to dictate their internal state, and because the environment keeps showing them the same results, they believe nothing can change. But the truth is, change begins within. When you take control of your thoughts and feelings, you are no longer on autopilot. You are now the creator of your own reality. Living consciously requires courage because the familiar is always more comfortable than the unknown. The autopilot program feels safe, even if it is unfulfilling. That's why so many people continue to live in unhappy jobs, unhealthy relationships, or limiting beliefs. They convince themselves it's easier to stay where they are than to face the uncertainty of something new. But comfort is the enemy of growth. Only when you step off autopilot and start making deliberate choices can you begin to experience the life you truly desire. If you want to be among the 5% who succeed, you must first recognize how often you are living unconsciously. Notice your morning routines, your emotional reactions, your automatic thoughts. Ask yourself if these patterns are moving you closer to your vision or keeping you tied to your past. Every time you choose awareness instead of autopilot, you reclaim your power. Every time you replace a familiar habit with a new intentional action, you send a message to your brain and body that you are no longer the prisoner of your past. You are stepping into the role of creator, and that is where true transformation begins. Most people believe they are in control of their lives because they make choices every day. What to eat, where to go, how to respond. But underneath those conscious decisions is a far deeper mechanism that quietly runs the show. This hidden force is the subconscious mind, and it is where nearly all of our patterns, beliefs, and habits live. Studies suggest that as much as 95% of our behavior is driven by the subconscious. That means that the majority of what people call choices are not choices at all. They are automatic responses programmed by years of conditioning. This is one of the main reasons so many people fail to change their lives. They think willpower alone can overcome their circumstances, but they do not realize the program running in the background keeps pulling them back to the same reality. Imagine a computer with software installed years ago. No matter how much you type or click, the program will still run in the way it was designed. The subconscious mind works in the same way. During childhood, experiences, emotions, and repeated messages from parents, teachers, and society all install beliefs deep within us. If a child grows up hearing, "Money is hard to come by," or "You're not smart enough," those phrases become scripts that influence behavior in adulthood. So when that person tries to start a business or pursue success, the subconscious program resists. It whispers that failure is certain, that success belongs to others, that risk is dangerous. And because the subconscious is stronger than conscious intention, the person often gives up before they even begin. The real challenge is that the subconscious mind operates silently. People do not notice when it takes over because it feels so natural. If someone has always reacted with anger, they believe, "That's just who I am." If someone always doubts themselves, they think, "This is just my personality." But those reactions are not fixed identities. They are learned patterns. When 95% of your day is spent living inside those patterns, you end up repeating the same life over and over again. This is why people wake up years later and wonder why nothing has changed. They were living according to a program they didn't even know existed. Another problem is that the subconscious mind is tied closely to the body. When you feel a certain emotion repeatedly, fear, worry, guilt, your body becomes chemically addicted to it. Over time, the body signals the mind to produce more of that emotion because it feels normal. So, if a person tries to think positively, but their body is addicted to fear, the body will send signals of unease, doubt, or anxiety until the person gives up and returns to the old emotional state. This is why affirmations or temporary motivation often don't last. Unless the subconscious program is reconditioned and the body is taught to feel new emotions, the old patterns will always win. This explains why most people feel stuck even when they work hard. They might attend seminars, read books, or set goals, but if deep down the subconscious holds beliefs like, "I'm not worthy," or "change is impossible," their efforts will be sabotaged. They may get temporary results, but eventually the old program drags them back. It is not laziness or lack of talent. It is simply that the subconscious script is stronger than the conscious desire. To succeed, a person must bring these hidden patterns into awareness and rewrite them with intention. Reprogramming the subconscious begins with observation. When you catch yourself reacting the same way in familiar situations, pause and ask, "Is this truly my choice, or is it the program?" When you hear the voice of doubt or fear, recognize that it may not be truth but simply an old recording playing again. With awareness, you start to create space between who you are now and who you were trained to be. That space is where change becomes possible. Another key is to practice new thoughts and emotions until they become the new program. The subconscious learns through repetition and emotion. That means simply telling yourself, I am successful, once will not change much. But vividly imagining success, feeling the gratitude and confidence as if it were real, and doing this repeatedly trains the subconscious to accept the new belief. Over time, the old program weakens and the new one takes over. This is the same way negative beliefs were formed, through repetition and emotional charge, but now you are consciously using the process to create empowering patterns. Consider how athletes train. They rehearse movements again and again until they become automatic. Success in life works the same way. You train your subconscious by repeating empowering thoughts, aligning them with strong emotions, and practicing them until they become natural. Then, without forcing it, your actions begin to flow from this new program. You no longer have to fight yourself. Success becomes the path of least resistance. The truth is that most people will never question their subconscious patterns. They will keep reacting the same way, telling themselves the same stories, and living the same lives. That is why 95% of people fail to create lasting change. But those who recognize the power of the subconscious can step into the 5% who succeed. They realize that freedom comes not from fighting the outside world, but from mastering the inner one. When you understand that your subconscious mind has been shaping your destiny, you also understand that you can shape it back. You can choose what beliefs to feed, what emotions to practice, and what thoughts to repeat. Each time you do, you are no longer a victim of the old program. You are the programmer, and that is where real success begins. Real success is not about luck, talent, or being in the right place at the right time. It is about transforming yourself from the inside out. Most people believe success is something that happens outside of them, the promotion, the recognition, the financial breakthrough, the perfect relationship. They chase those external rewards while neglecting the one thing that truly creates lasting change, their inner world. The truth is that the quality of your thoughts, the emotions you cultivate daily, and the actions that flow from them determine the reality you experience. Until you shift those, no amount of effort on the outside will make a permanent difference. This is why so many people work hard, yet remain stuck in the same circumstances. They are trying to build a new life with the same old mindset, and that simply doesn't work. Inner transformation begins with thoughts. Every thought sends a signal to the brain that shapes how you perceive reality. If you constantly think thoughts of limitation, I can't do this, it's too hard, success is for others, your brain wires itself to expect failure. Those neural pathways become stronger the more you repeat them, just like carving a deeper groove in the dirt each time you walk the same path. Eventually, those limiting thoughts feel automatic, and you mistake them for truth. But the moment you choose to think differently, you begin to carve a new path. Even if it feels unnatural at first, consistently thinking empowering thoughts creates new neural connections, and those connections lay the foundation for a different reality. Thoughts, however, cannot work alone. They must be joined by emotion. If you think a thought without feeling it, it has little power. You can tell yourself, I am successful, 100 times, but if you feel doubt or fear while saying it, the emotion wins. The body listens to the chemistry of emotion more than the logic of words. This is why people fail when they try to think positive without changing their emotional state. Success requires practicing emotions that match the reality you want to create. That means learning how to feel gratitude before you receive the blessing, to feel love before the relationship shows up, to feel abundance before the money comes. When thought and emotion unite, the brain and body begin to believe the new reality is already happening. From this union of thought and emotion comes action. Actions born from fear, worry, or insecurity will always reflect those states. Even if you take bold steps, if the emotion behind them is doubt, the outcome will mirror that doubt. But when your actions flow from a place of alignment, with thoughts of confidence and emotions of joy or gratitude. They carry a different energy. People feel it, opportunities align with it, and results follow. This is why some individuals seem to attract success effortlessly while others struggle. It is not that they are luckier, it is that they are internally aligned. Think of two people starting the same project. One carries old patterns of fear and self-doubt, thinking, "This probably won't work," while forcing themselves to act. The other has practiced confidence and gratitude, holding a clear vision of the outcome. Even if they both work equally hard, their experiences will be worlds apart. The first may sabotage themselves unconsciously, procrastinate, or give up at the first obstacle. The second will persist, notice opportunities others miss, and inspire others with their energy. Same external situation, different internal reality, and that makes all the difference. This is the essence of why inner transformation is the foundation of success. If you remain the same person internally, no external achievement will feel satisfying or last long. People who win the lottery but haven't transformed their beliefs about money often lose it all within a few years. Those who enter relationships without healing their sense of unworthiness often repeat the same painful dynamics, no matter how different the partner seems. Without inner transformation, external changes are temporary. With inner transformation, external changes become natural and lasting. Transformation is not easy because it requires letting go of the familiar self. The old identity, the one shaped by years of fear, self-doubt, or limitation, will fight to survive. It will whisper that it's too hard to change, that you're wasting your time, that you should stay safe in what you know. But success is not found in the comfort of the old self. It is born in the courage to become someone new. Every time you choose a new thought over an old one, a new emotion over a familiar one, you weaken the grip of the old identity and strengthen the new. One of the most powerful ways to accelerate this process is to have a clear vision of the person you want to become. Ask yourself, how does the successful version of me think? How does that version of me feel on a daily basis? How does that version act, speak, and move through the world? Then begin practicing those qualities now, even in small ways. Each time you do, you are teaching your mind and body to align with your desired future. Over time, you no longer have to force change. It becomes who you are. This is the difference between those who fail and those who succeed. The ones who fail keep looking outward, hoping the world will change first. The ones who succeed look inward, knowing that once they change themselves, the world must reflect that change. They understand that reality is not something that happens to them. It is something they create by mastering their inner world. And the most liberating truth of all is that anyone can do this. You do not need special gifts or circumstances. You only need the willingness to transform your thoughts, emotions, and actions until they align with the life you want. In the end, success is not about achieving something outside yourself. It is about becoming the person who naturally attracts and sustains that success. When you transform within, the external results become inevitable. This is the path of the few who rise above the 95% and step fully into their potential. Most people spend their lives waiting. They wait for the job to come before they feel successful. They wait for the right partner to show up before they feel loved. They wait for more money to arrive before they feel abundant. They believe happiness, peace, and fulfillment are rewards that appear only after external circumstances change. But this way of thinking keeps them trapped. If you are always waiting for the outside to shift before you change the inside, then you are handing over your power. You are telling the world that it must decide how you feel. This is one of the main reasons 95% of people fail. They live as reactors to life, not creators of it. The truth is the process works in the opposite way. You must feel the future before it arrives. You must practice the emotions of the reality you want, even before you see the evidence of it. The mind does not know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine yourself already living the life you desire. Your brain begins to fire new patterns. If you hold that vision long enough, with genuine feeling, your body starts to believe it is happening now. You are no longer waiting for the world to give you a reason to feel abundant, loved, or joyful. You are generating those states within yourself. That shift changes everything because now you are no longer at the mercy of your environment. Think about how most people approach goals. They set a target. Maybe it's a new career, better health, or financial freedom. But every day, when they don't see immediate results, they feel discouraged. They look at their current reality and let it dictate their emotions. If the bank account is low, they feel scarcity. If the scale doesn't move, they feel failure. If progress is slow, they feel hopeless. Those emotions are the same ones they've always felt, and so they keep creating more of the same results. The cycle continues. Lack leads to more lack, fear leads to more fear, frustration leads to more frustration. They are unknowingly creating their future out of the energy of their past. To break free, you have to reverse the order. Instead of waiting for the bank account to grow before you feel abundant, you practice abundance now. Instead of waiting for the perfect relationship to appear before you feel loved, you generate love now. Instead of waiting for success to come before you feel confident, you embody confidence now. By doing this, you send a completely different signal to your brain and body. You are saying, "This is who I am already." And when your inner state shifts, your outer reality begins to reorganize itself to match it. It may sound simple, but it requires discipline. The old emotions of fear, doubt, and frustration are powerful because the body is addicted to them. When you try to feel gratitude while your environment is showing you reasons to feel lack, the old program resists. It will whisper that you are lying to yourself, that nothing has changed, that it's pointless. This is where most people give up and slide back into their familiar state. But if you can persist, if you can choose to feel the new emotions regardless of circumstances, you are breaking the old cycle. You are teaching your body that it no longer controls your mind. You are reclaiming your creative power. Consider an athlete training for a big event. If they only feel victorious after they win, their performance is inconsistent. But the greatest athletes imagine victory long before the competition. They rehearse the feelings of triumph, strength, and confidence every day in practice. By the time the event arrives, their body already knows how to perform at that level because it has lived it mentally and emotionally. Life works the same way. When you live in the feeling of your desired future before it physically arrives, you are rehearsing it into being. You are priming your brain and body to align with that future until it has no choice but to manifest. Another way to look at it is like tuning a radio. If you want to hear a certain station, you must first tune to its frequency. You cannot wait for the station to change to meet you, you must match it. Success, abundance, love, and joy all exist on specific energetic frequencies. If you wait for them to show up first, you remain tuned to the old frequency of lack or fear. But if you practice the feelings of success and gratitude now, you shift your energy to the frequency where those realities already exist, then opportunities, people, and circumstances that resonate with that frequency begin to appear in your life. This is why some people seem lucky. They are not lucky, they are aligned. They have learned to embody the emotions of their desired future in advance. As a result, they attract experiences that mirror those emotions. Meanwhile, those who wait for evidence continue to attract more of what they already know. The difference is not fate or fortune. It is whether you are willing to generate your future within yourself before it shows up outside you. When you practice this consistently, something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling desperate for the outcome because you already feel the emotions it promises. You stop needing the relationship to feel love because you are love. You stop needing the money to feel abundant because you are abundance. And when you no longer chase, you attract. Life flows more easily, not because circumstances have changed overnight, but because you have changed. You are no longer bound by the conditions of the present. You are living as if the future is already here. This is the secret that separates the few who succeed from the many who fail. The 95% wait, hope, and react. The 5% practice, generate, and create. They understand that the future belongs to those who are willing to feel it before they see it. And once you grasp this truth and live it, you are no longer in the cycle of waiting. You are the one shaping reality, moment by moment, from the inside out. Most people never step into the unknown because they are afraid of uncertainty. They would rather live in the discomfort of a familiar struggle than risk the possibility of something unfamiliar. This is why 95% of people remain stuck in the same patterns year after year. They wake up to the same routines, repeat the same conversations, and continue to think and feel in the same predictable ways. Deep down, they crave change, but the fear of stepping into the unknown convinces them to stay where they are. The known may be painful, but at least it feels safe. The unknown, though full of possibility, feels threatening to the old self that is addicted to familiarity. The truth is that the unknown is where all transformation happens. Nothing new can emerge from the same old thoughts, feelings, and actions. If you keep repeating what you already know, you will keep recreating what you already have. Growth requires a leap into uncertainty. It requires you to let go of the old story of who you are and trust that something greater is waiting on the other side. This is why stepping into the unknown is both frightening and liberating. Frightening because it feels like losing control. Liberating because it is the only way to break free from the prison of the past. The body and mind, however, resist this process. The subconscious is designed to protect you by keeping you in familiar territory. It remembers every past hurt, every disappointment, every failure, and it uses that memory to warn you against change. When you try to step into something new, the mind immediately floods you with reasons why it won't work. It says, what if you fail? What if you get hurt? What if you lose what you already have? These thoughts are not truth. They are the voice of the old program fighting for survival. Yet most people mistake them for reality. And so they retreat back into the known. They choose safety over possibility. And in doing so, they trade their future for the comfort of the past. Think of a seed. A seed can only become a tree if it cracks open and leaves the safety of its shell. If it clings to what it knows, it will never grow. The same is true for you. To create a new life, you must be willing to break free from the shell of your old identity. That process is uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, but it is the only way to expand into the fullness of who you are meant to be. The unknown is not your enemy. It is the soil where your greatest potential is waiting. The reason the unknown feels so uncomfortable is because the old self cannot survive there. The familiar identity, the one who always doubts, fears, or complains, does not know how to exist in a future it hasn't experienced. So stepping into the unknown feels like death to that version of you. And in a sense, it is. You must allow the old self to die so the new self can be born. This is why courage is required. It takes courage to face the void of uncertainty and trust that a new reality will unfold. But the moment you choose to step into that space, you open the door to possibilities that never could have entered your old life. History is filled with examples of people who embraced the unknown and changed the world. Innovators, leaders, and visionaries all had to take steps without knowing how things would turn out. They had to trust that their inner vision was stronger than the pull of the familiar. If they had waited for guarantees, nothing new would ever have been created. The same principle applies to your life. If you wait for certainty before you move, you will wait forever. But if you move despite uncertainty, you give life the chance to surprise you. The unknown also carries a gift that the familiar never can: growth. When you step into a space where you do not know the outcome, you stretch beyond your limits. You develop resilience, creativity, and strength you never knew you had. Each time you do this, you expand your capacity for life. The fear that once held you back begins to shrink because you have proven to yourself that you can survive and even thrive outside your comfort zone. The unknown then becomes less of a threat and more of an adventure, a space where new versions of yourself can emerge again and again. But how do you practically step into the unknown? It begins with awareness. Notice when you are clinging to the familiar out of fear. Ask yourself, is this choice keeping me safe, or is it keeping me small? Then take one small step beyond that boundary. It doesn't have to be a massive leap. Even a small action outside your comfort zone is an entry into the unknown. The key is to do it with intention, holding the vision of the future you want to create. Each step tells your mind and body, we are no longer repeating the past. We are creating something new. As you do this, fear will show up, but that fear is not a signal to stop. It is proof that you are entering new territory. Instead of running from it, learn to embrace it. Breathe into it. Remind yourself that fear is just energy and redirect it into excitement. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes exhilarating because you realize the unknown is not darkness. It is possibility. This is the path of the few who succeed. They understand that the familiar life, no matter how safe it feels, cannot give them what they truly desire. They are willing to let go of control, to step into uncertainty, and to trust that their future is bigger than their past. And because they are willing to do what 95% will not, they experience the freedom, abundance, and fulfillment that others only dream of. If you want to create a different reality, you must be willing to enter the unknown again and again. Each time you do, you shed an old layer of yourself and step closer to the person you are meant to become. That is where true success lies, not in the safety of the known, but in the vast, open space of possibility that only the unknown can offer. Lasting change does not come from sudden bursts of motivation or from a single breakthrough moment. It comes from the quiet, consistent practice of becoming a new version of yourself every single day. This is why daily practice is the foundation of true transformation. 95% of people fail because they hope for quick results, but the 5% who succeed understand that it is the repeated choice to think new thoughts, feel new emotions, and take new actions that rewires the brain and reshapes reality. Success is not something you stumble upon. It is something you practice into existence. Every day you wake up, you are presented with a choice to live as the old self or to practice the new self. The old self is familiar, automatic, and easy to fall back into. It's the version of you that reacts the same way to stress, that thinks the same disempowering thoughts, that feels the same cycle of fear, doubt, or frustration. This self may feel comfortable, but it will always create the same reality you already know. The new self, on the other hand, is unfamiliar. It requires awareness and effort to choose different thoughts and embody different emotions. At first, it feels uncomfortable, even fake, because your brain and body are used to the old patterns. But with practice, what was once unfamiliar becomes natural. And that is how you evolve. Think of the brain as a muscle. Just like lifting weights strengthens your body, practicing new thoughts strengthens new neural connections. If every day you choose to think thoughts of possibility instead of limitation, gratitude instead of lack, confidence instead of doubt, you are firing and wiring new circuits in your brain. Over time, those circuits become stronger than the old ones, and your default state shifts. The same is true for the body. If you practice emotions of peace, joy, or love, your body becomes conditioned to those states. It no longer craves fear or stress because it has learned to feel at home in new emotions. This is the science of change. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity becomes identity. Daily practice also teaches you to take ownership of your state instead of waiting for circumstances to change. Most people allow the outside world to decide how they feel inside. If things go well, they are happy. If things go poorly, they are upset. This reactivity keeps them trapped because they are constantly being controlled by external events. But when you commit to a daily practice of aligning your thoughts and emotions, you become the one in control. You wake up and decide how you want to feel, regardless of circumstances. You no longer wait for life to give you a reason to feel joy. You generate joy within yourself. This internal power is what separates creators from reactors. At first, the practice is challenging. The old self fights for survival, and the body will pull you back into old emotions. You may feel resistance, boredom, or doubt. But every time you persist, you weaken the old patterns and strengthen the new ones. Over weeks and months, the shift becomes undeniable. What once felt like effort becomes natural, and what once felt unnatural becomes who you are. This is the moment where success stops being something you chase and starts being something you embody. Consider how a musician learns to play an instrument. In the beginning, every note feels awkward, and mistakes are constant. But with daily practice, the fingers begin to move naturally, the ear learns to hear differently, and eventually music flows effortlessly. The musician no longer has to think about the notes. They have become part of them. Life works the same way. When you practice new thoughts and emotions every day, you no longer have to force success or abundance. They flow from you naturally because you have become the person who lives in that reality. This daily practice does not need to be complicated. It could be as simple as spending 10 minutes each morning visualizing your desired future and feeling the emotions of it as if it were already real. It could be journaling new beliefs about yourself, practicing gratitude, or meditating on empowering thoughts. It could be choosing to respond with patience when you would normally react with anger. Each small act is a signal to your brain and body that you are no longer the old self. With enough repetition, those small acts compound into massive transformation. The key is consistency. Most people start strong, but give up when results don't appear immediately. They underestimate the power of repetition. Just as water shapes rock not by force, but by persistence, your daily choices carve a new identity over time. The ones who succeed understand this truth. They do not look for overnight change, they commit to the process, knowing that each day of practice moves them closer to becoming the person they want to be. Over time, the results speak for themselves. Opportunities begin to show up that never appeared before. Relationships shift. Health improves. Confidence grows. These external changes are reflections of the internal transformation that daily practice has created. The outer world bends to match the inner world, and life begins to align with the vision you have been practicing. This is why daily practice is so powerful. It turns hope into habit and habit into identity. When you consistently choose to think, feel, and act like your future self, you stop trying to get success and start becoming success itself. And once you become it, no one can take it away from you. You are no longer dependent on circumstances. You are the source. This is the path of the 5% who rise above mediocrity. They understand that transformation is not a single event, but a daily commitment. They embrace the discomfort of practice because they know it is shaping them into someone new. And eventually, what began as conscious effort becomes effortless being. That is when success ceases to be a goal and becomes a natural expression of who you are.